Good morning. Ready to start? No? Hopefully this will be fun because I plan to do a lot of demos and you know how that usually works. Fingers crossed. First things first, my name is Natasha. I'm an engineering manager who works on app services, functions, logic apps. And one of the things I get to do is work on app service migration. So I'm very excited to talk about how you can migrate your applications to Azure App Service using a nifty migration assistant we built, but there are other approaches available as well. Don't hesitate to ask questions at any time, please, but I'll keep going. How many of you guys know Azure App Service already? Okay, quite a few of you. So I'm going to breeze through the rest of the slides because you will know what I'm talking about. The analogy we like using in our team is consider a way to describe what app service and PaaS would be. Just consider that hosting an application on the cloud is like owning a car. If you are owning the car, you take care of getting the oil change, servicing. That's IaaS. If you rent a car, that's PaaS. And if you just take I should even update it, not just taxi, but even a ride share, that's SaaS. This is, again, something that, since you guys know App Service, you'll know already. For IaaS, most of the stuff is taken care of by you as a customer. Of course, the servers are running on the cloud. For PaaS, most of the responsibility of managing the servers, making sure they're available, is on us, the cloud providers, and you just get to worry about your code and your data. SaaS does everything for you. This is data that maybe people have seen already, but we have noticed that having customers move from IaaS to PaaS is a good business investment. Here are some stats that show why. A lot of IT time is saved. There is a lot of return of investment, 466% it was measured. And the common scenarios we see running on app service are, hosting your digital marketing, transactional, line of business applications. So this is our product. We have a lot of services available on Azure App Service. So sometimes when we go to the customers and talk about migrate your applications, I have been asked the question, why not migrate my VMs to IaaS? Why do I move to App Service or any PaaS offering for that matter? And the reason is because App Service in particular, and PaaS in general, offers so many features and capabilities that you do not have to worry about anymore. You just get them by virtue of deploying your application on App Service. So concepts like we have hybrid support, which allows you connectivity to your on-prem resources, AAD integration, we are secure, we pass all the compliance we need to make sure customers can trust us with their enterprise apps. We are a fully managed platform and a very killer development suite. I think App Service in particular prides itself on how amazingly easy we strive to make it for developers to deploy their application on our platform. And I think for App Service, we have 3 offerings. You guys might be familiar. We have our Azure App Service, our multi-tenant, we call it the public cloud offering. There is Azure App Service Environment, so you can get your own slice of our code into your own private data center. An Azure Stack, which is a Microsoft offering, and App Service is part of it, which allows you to have your own data centers. And these are a whole bunch of capabilities available. I'm going to breeze through them. It's a huge list. Any questions so far? OK. And of course, we support a whole bunch of languages and operating systems. So you just get to bring your code and not worry about whether it'll work on our platform or not. OK. The reason why we are here is talking about App Service Migration Assistant. I was going to start with a demo right away, but just to step back, Are you guys familiar with migrating in general and migrating to PaaS? A few folks. So I think you would have heard this before, that migration right now is considered like the phases for migrating your applications. The first thing is you get to discover what's on your data center. Then you get to assess whether that discovered stuff, whether it's servers, applications, databases, is ready for a cloud platform, in our case Azure, or if we have any issues that we found that would need tweaking because the on-prem apps might not run as is on the cloud. Finally, the actual migration of getting that application to the cloud, and optimization is the final phase, which really is allowing customers to see all the capabilities available to them by having moved to Azure App Service, for example, and leveraging it. So let's do some demos. Okay. So the way you would access App Service Migration Assistant, we are hosted on appmigration.microsoft.com. We are now also integrated with Azure Migrate Hub. That's the new release we announced for Ignite. So you would be able to access us from Azure Migrate Hub as well. So first things first, if you have an internet-facing site, which we realize not everybody does, but if you do, you can use our Agentless assessment tool. So for example, the one I like to demo, unless people have any suggestions, any URLs you want me to verify? Okay, target.com it is then. So when you click assess, within seconds you will see us scroll the internet and try to figure out more about this application. So for example, we detected about 88 domains that target.com has. We are figuring out what framework it is running on, what hosting providers being used, web server technologies, and it's a huge list, so you can keep going on. Everything we saw when we crawled that site. In addition, we are trying to do a quick reference against a sample set of about 40,000 applications that are running on Azure App Service today. And what we are trying to check is the technology being used by this particular app you're assessing is already being run on Azure App Service by some customer by their app. And we also check whether it is one of the, what we call large apps, which get a lot of activity in a given day in a given month. So we are trying to produce an insight in addition to discovering what we see, whether one of our applications is already using this framework or not. So for example, you'll see when we see a particular capability being used by a top site. And then finally, here, we are trying to say whether your site, we believe that your site's framework and hosting model is supported on App Service or not. The idea is, this means we know we can run this particular tech on Azure App Service. It doesn't mean we can lift and shift that tech, but we definitely know this technology stack will be supported on the platform. So the next thing we recommend is you use our migration assistant. It's an agent that you would install on your web server, where your IIS is, for example. And here, I wanted to show this because I don't know how many people follow the links and all. But here, for example, we have a GitHub page as well. We try to make sure we keep a wiki, release notes, known issues. We even encourage people to report to us any issues they see on our tooling. And we are very active on it. We are actually looking at it pretty daily. So now a show of hands. I have 2 potential demos, and I would love to see if you guys care which one. So we can either migrate an ASP.NET application to Azure App Service, or we can migrate WordPress to Azure App Service. Vote for ASP.NET. Okay, vote for WordPress. Oh, ASP.NET wins. If we have time, I might do both, but that one for later. So which one is this? Okay, so here is an ASP.NET website talking to a SQL database. These are deployed on the cloud, 3 separate VMs, 1 web, 1 dev, and 1 SQL. And on my server machine, the web machine, is where I would install the App Service Migration Assistant. So same thing, like I said, go to appmigration.microsoft.com, download the bits over to your machine. We will save it as a shortcut on the home page as well. And when you run it, we would discover what sites we see on the platform. So in this case, I only have the one, ASP.NET site. And then you click Next. And here we are doing a bunch of checks. It's a static analysis on your content and configuration, trying to assess whether this application is lift and shift ready or if it needs some work. So some examples of cases we see where apps might not be lift and shift ready. If you're using custom non-ET ports, app service does not allow you to configure ports. So that's a simple one. We say, please update the port. I usually shut down my other sites, update my sites binding to AT, and then retry the assessment. Some other checks that we look for are you using custom identities? Because Windows Auth is not supported on the public cloud. So we will flag that as a potential concern we'd like for you to refactor. But it's mostly configuration. From the data we have seen, we've had this product GA about 8 months now, and we have seen about 20% of applications that are being assessed via Migration Assistant are being tagged as lift and shift ready. Actually, I take that back. The apps that we are tagging as passed our assessment checks are upwards of 50%, but the actual apps that we see people trying to move from their on-prem machines to the server is about 20%. Any questions so far? Keep going. Yes?
Yeah, just a real quick question. What if you have an internal-facing web app?
Actually, the reason why we built the agent is so that for the internal-facing web apps, you could still migrate them to Azure App Service. All you need to do is get this agent on your web server. We'll take care of the rest. It's a good question. So in my demo, of course, everything works. So a couple of things, though. You can save this report for later, especially if the people who are assessing their site are not the ones who are going to fix it, for example, or whatever. You can save this file, the report later. We also have a partner page we've built, some partners who we are working with who can help customers through their modernization journey. So for example, if the app needs more love than just some tweaks, we encourage that you partner with one of them. In this case, I get to go next. So notice one thing, I have so far not authenticated myself to Azure at all. So you could assess your internal-facing apps without having, frankly, even an Azure subscription, and without authenticating yourself to it. This is where I get to authenticate myself. This is device code login. So I can even do it from another machine if I wanted to. OK. We are polling whether we authenticated. Once it's done, this is for people who are familiar with Azure Portal or App Service. It's a very familiar looking page, I hope. Let's do this. Ignite. There. And we'll do demo ASP.NET. Nope, no dots. OK. It picks the default region, which you're welcome to change. One capability we heard from many customers was we would always create a new plan and then migrate the application to it, but customers strongly asked for ability to migrate into an existing plan. With our release, we are announcing that at Ignite that is possible, so you can use an existing plan. Another question I normally get is, what about ACEs? Do we get to migrate an app into an existing ACE? Yes, you do. If I have an ACE, which I don't think I have on this subscription, the ACEs would show up in the location. You get to pick the ACE, pick the plan, or allow us to create a new plan, and it will still work. For Ignite, we are now introducing integration with Azure Migrate Hub. Are folks familiar with Azure Migrate Hub? OK, very few. So let me quickly show you. I'll hop off and come back. Azure Migrate is a top-level resource on Azure now. So if you go to portal.azure.com, search for Azure Migrate, you will see something like this. The hubs idea is one-stop shop for everything you want to migrate, because chances are for folks who are migrating into Azure, you would have an assortment of things, right? You'd have databases, servers, and apps. So the idea is this is the one place you get to track, monitor, have a dashboard-style experience as you're going through the migration journey. So we have integrated the web apps experience for Ignite, and when you do that, add a new project, select an assessment tool and migration tool, you will see a dashboard similar to the one I'm showing you. So the migration project name I have is Ignite Demo Migrate. I'm going to go back to my demo machine and try to search for it from this assortment of bazillion projects. There. One other thing you'll notice is we discovered that there was a connection string on the application. We figured out what that server name is, the database, SQL database that I'm using, and what port I need to connect to it. And the reason is because in this particular case, for app service migration, we are saying you have two choices. You could either migrate your database yourself using a DMS story yourself. We do not have it integrated with App Service Migration Assistant yet. We are working on it. The other option is set up a hybrid connection back to your on-prem server, get the site over to the cloud, use it like a POC, make sure things are actually working, and then you can migrate the database after. So by default, that's the experience we have, because we want you to be able to test what you're doing and have it working right away. Here you can even export the ARM template if you want to redeploy it using another tool. Migrate, I should have talked about it after. Nope, did not like my app name. Let's do something else. What's a demo when things just work, right? Demo, migration, Ignite, Central US, Ignite demo, where are you? Up, moment of truth, go. Come on, validating still. So what we are trying to do here is, this is the place where we are sending a bunch of information to Azure Migrate project so that it's available for you to view in the dashboard. What we are trying to do is also validate whether the inputs I put for the Azure site create is valid. Oh, come on. This is a wired connection. Yes, thank you.
While we're waiting.
Yes, while we are waiting.
We have several back office services that run and handle communication and other processes. So how does the app interface with those back office applications? Or is it not possible if we run services that work with the apps?
Are those services defined at runtime and configuration?
No, we pre-installed them. They're Windows services.
I see. I think if we are able to scan them through the application, we will most likely flag it, because PaaS doesn't allow you to deploy custom services. If we have them, they'll go through. If we don't, most likely they'll be flagged as lift and shift blockers. Yeah. Okay, at least the validation went through. So now the mechanics are going to go. Yes, please.
So when you're connecting to SQL,
Yes.
we use integrated SQL.
Yes.
That doesn't work, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
we have to use SQL logins.
Yes, SQL logins are the preferred way.
Flagged.
Actually, we do not touch the SQL authentication today. It is something DMS will flag, though. If you were using DMA, I think that's the database migration assessment, they will flag the logins. I know they take the logins with them, but yes, you're right, the integrated auth won't work.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, we tried this for a couple of applications, and even with Windows authentication on
Yeah.
the application, it basically just tried to use Azure AD as my auth platform when I pushed it to App Service.
Okay.
And
This,
I don't know if that's,
it won't work.
yeah.
Yeah.
Although it worked.
Yeah.
We
Yep.
on it, and it worked fine. I was really surprised that it did.
Did you have the AD auth configured on the cloud already? Maybe
Yeah,
with the same tenants and directories?
Yeah.
That's why it worked. Otherwise, it wouldn't. And our migration assistant will flag it because we don't know what you have on the target yet. So for the on-prem, if we see you have custom identities or Windows auth, we're going to flag it as, can't do lift and shift. But you're right, the workaround would be, looks like, and that is the right thing to do. Get your AAD over first, then get your apps over. Yeah. So here what it's trying to do is create a site, and since I said set up a hybrid connection, we're going to try to create an Azure Relay resource after the site is created, and then bring that connection string back so that we can establish a tunnel between the on-prem database and Azure App Service. Unfortunately, this part of my demo takes like a century. So how about we do this? Yeah, how about we do this? We'll do WordPress, since we have time, and we'll come back, because I don't want to just abandon the demo. I want you guys to see it really works. So here I have a WordPress site, and similar to what I did with the other machine, I discovered a few sites, and I'm going to select WordPress, and same old, we'll do the assessment. In this case, my WordPress app is actually talking to MySQL, and you will see us doing the same discovery of the MySQL database as well by parsing the connection string. Okay, it is all success. You are allowed to click next now. Come on. I was told the wired connection would be fast. Okay. Next, device code login again. Yep. I should check if it's, yep, it's good. Ignite demo and WordPress demo Ignite. I'll do the create new for now. Same project. And notice again, I have the database discovered. I'm going to do a hybrid again. And this is going to take its own sweet time. So I'm going to come back to the other VM and see if that moved on in life. OK, yay, it did. So here what you get to do now is, because I said set up a hybrid connection, we have two choices. Like I said, we create a relay resource. So we need a machine on-prem that has hybrid connection manager, where we can add the configuration of the relay resource so the database and app can talk to each other. We have two choices. We either install it on the machine we are running the migration assistant from, or you could install it from your SQL machine, which is frankly what most people would prefer, and then have us add the connection string, and you're done in life. For the demo purposes, I will just click on this button and say, just set it up for me, and it's done. Moment of truth, my site is actually migrated at this point. And if I click on it, it'll do its cold start. It's ASP.NET, talking to SQL on-prem. And I'm willing all the demo gods to make this work and not take a 95th percentile cold start time. Come on. Yay, it works. Woohoo! Thank you. So this was, again, the application is on Azure App Service, and I can quickly show you. This is not demoware. You will trust me, we were sitting there staring at it for a while. So the app is here. And if I quickly check my networking on this app, I will see that it is actually talking to a hybrid connection endpoint, which is connected. And that's the server and the endpoint we were talking to. So let's see how the WordPress fellow is doing, shall we? OK, it's moving along. But we're almost done, because now it's serializing and publishing the content. The reason I was interested in showing WordPress is because we have done extra work to handle WordPress with care. It's a special application. It has some gotchas. I'm sure people who are familiar with WordPress would know them. So we have taken those into account. So for example, if WordPress is talking to a database, but it has the connection string set up to localhost as opposed to the server name, we will flag it. We will also call out, OK, let me finish this demo, and I'll show you what I mean. Complete the hybrid connection step. Next. So this is the other thing we do. We have a curated troubleshooting guide exclusively for WordPress because we've seen cases where if I show you, I'll show you what I mean. By default, most WordPress apps have a redirect to themselves for all the relative pages. And you will see by default when this app loads, the style sheet will be busted. There, case in point. So we actually have a quick link here on how one could fix it. So you would go to the application that you just migrated on App Service. You would use our editor on Azure App Service portal when it opens. And then we'll tweak the config file directly. And when I save it, it will fix the particular issue that we noticed in the application. Voila, it's working. And again, this one is, the app is running on Azure App Service, talking to MySQL on-prem via hybrid connection. OK, we did both the demos. Awesome. Now I'm going to go back to my slides for a little bit, and then we'll continue with the demos. OK, I totally jumped the gun. Yes?
So when you run the assessment, will it flag out my SSO authentication? It's not working on time.
Your SSO authentication will not work, yes, and it will flag it. Anytime we see custom authentication, we'll flag it, because we know it's not lift and shift ready. It'll need some work. Yep. So I kind of jumped ahead and showed you App Service Migration Assistant, but I'm going to step back a little bit and tell you that you have a few different options to migrate and come over to Azure App Service. Of course, you could use our assistant tool. We encourage it for apps that might be good lift and shift candidates. And frankly, it's worth giving a try because it's so easy, as you saw, that if your apps meet the criteria, why not? Just let the assistant do the work for you. But if you have your code or your container and you want to bring that over to Azure App Service, you do not need the tooling that I just showed you. You could use Azure App Service capabilities, and I'm going to show those to you guys right after. So we already did this. I was so excited I went on. Let me show you the deploy code. But before I show you the demo, I just wanted to show that we have a whole bunch of options here. OK, slide where? Nope, go back. OK, so I just wanted to show all the various options a developer has to bring their code over to our platform. So on the left, you will see where your source could be and what kind of commands you could be using to bring your code over to our platform, where you could build it and deploy it. We have a CI/CD pipeline capability built into Azure App Service. All we need from you is to configure your source control repository with an application on the platform, and the rest of the CI/CD pipeline gravy is going to be provided to you through DevOps, actually. In addition, you could even deploy your compiled and packaged artifacts over to the platform. So folks who are Java shops or people who use either Visual Studio or DevOps pipeline directly, we also have capability integrated with VS Code, Visual Studio, to get your application over to the cloud. So let me quickly show you the demo. Switching machines here. For this one, I'm going to create an empty application. It's going to be a Windows application. I want to deploy code. I want it to be a .NET Core app. And it's going to create a new app service plan for me. I just realized we ran through time. We only have 15 minutes. And I have a couple of more demos for you. So I'm going to try to be fast. So this is an empty application once it's created. Meanwhile, let me show you. I have a GitHub repository which I was going to set up a CI/CD pipeline with. It's a very cheesy site. It doesn't do much in life. But let's change it. Edit. And welcome to Ignite 2019. And we will save and deploy. OK, coming back. App is created, almost. Any questions while we wait for the app to create? Okay. I never learn. I've been like, should we do live demos or should we do pre-recorded demos? I always find live demos to be more fun, but then this happens.
What does it run under the hood, like containers, and what does the app service create for the application?
The very good question. Actually, we have many SKUs. On Windows, we have VMs that we give you. We even have Windows containers options. You could use either ACR or your Docker containers, and we can deploy those over to Azure App Service. We also have Linux containers, and we also have our own blessed images. So for example, if you just want to use a blessed WordPress image or a blessed PHP image, you can just use the one the platform provides, but you can bring your own as well. Have a Docker hub and a Docker file and just publish it. Actually, I'm going to show that as well, if the demo gods keep helping me. So here I have Deployment Center. That's the one I was going to show you. There are many ways, as I said, to set up your source repository. This is one of them, a pretty popular one as well. So here it already knows me. I could change my account and re-authenticate. You have two options to deploy your code. Either you can use the Azure pipelines, which is the recommended way for production payloads. But for DevOps, Kudu works brilliantly, so I'm going to use that. Now it will detect, stuff. And continue. Finish. What this is trying to do is setting up the CI/CD pipeline. And once this is set up, it will even go ahead and deploy my site content from my GitHub repo over to my application. So when I browse to it, actually, let me show you before and after. So this is how my default page would be when I have an empty app. And then when I go to Deployment Center, and it's done in live, pending, it's moving on. Generating the deployment script. Do you guys use slots? Are you familiar with the feature? Slots, testing in production, I see a few head nods. That is one capability that a lot of people, we encourage as well, people should use. It just makes for deploying your code safely to production very easy. So there you go, CI/CD pipeline is set up. Now if I were to make changes to it, all I need to do is commit, and the pipeline will take care of it for me. I don't have to do anything else other than commit my changes, and I'm done. And you'll notice when I refresh, it will detect that there is a push. It will build the application, it will deploy it, and make that to be my default content. And with this capability, we have the ability for you to swap out, go back, if you have a bad build that made it to production. Any questions? This is one example of how you would deploy code. I don't have time to go through all of them, but I think it's a good indicator of how you could just get your code directly on the platform without having to worry about using any tooling from us. Okay, let's go back to the slides. Finally, the last demo I wanted to show was deploying a container. If you already have a Docker file or you have an image on your machine, on your local machine, Azure App Service allows you to deploy that container over to our platform, and we will run it for you. Again, here, I wanted to show the exhaustive list of applications and options available. You could either deploy using Docker APIs or Azure pipelines. We support private container registry, ACR, and Docker Hub as well. And the model is similar. It's kind of CI/CD based, where we are going to constantly pull once you deploy your image and configure the application to be using one of the different mechanisms to deploy your container. App Service will keep pulling as you make incremental changes to your images, for example, in ACR or Docker Hub. So let's do a demo. Okay. So This one is going to be against an Ubuntu server. I have a Python app talking to Postgres. In this particular case, I have the Postgres database already on the cloud, and my file content is sitting locally. I have a Docker file, but let's test it out first locally. I'm going to have the server running locally and quickly hit my site. Yep, that one. So it's a very cheesy site powered by Postgres. But I want to make sure you see it running, and then we're going to use Docker APIs and then deploy it to the cloud. So the way I would do it is I have a build script. It'll build the image. It's an ACR image. Demo is the name. Ignite is the tag for that image. And then we would do a Docker push. This is going to push it to an ACR resource I already created. So the first thing I would have to do for this is go to the portal, create an Azure Container Registry resource, and then use these commands to push content into that. So now if I use the portal, I'm going to try to have an app created that is powered through the image I just pushed out. So it's a Docker container. It's a Linux app. I gave it some name. Nothing out of the ordinary here. Oh, no, don't go reviewing and creating yet. So I want to set up a Docker container, single container using ACR. And if you noticed where did it go? So this is the image I'm going to try to use. Image is build, tag is ignite, no startup commands, review and create the application. And once I create this application, it is going to use, like the diagram showed, it's going to deploy the image, but the app service is now going to pull the container image from ACR based on how we specified it and going to run it. Any questions on this? Yes?
Now, anything new I made, I'm going to have a different tag to it, right?
Yes.
How to deploy that? How is the CD going to work?
I think that's a very good question. Right now, the way it works is we are saying incrementally update the same tag, or you will have to update the application. So think of it as you have like a pre-prod, a staging. So those were the tags you could consider. Dev, you're going crazy changing tags often, but once you're in pre-prod, you'll be having one tag, hopefully. But you're right. Right now, it kind of associates itself with the tag as well, not just the image. Hey, look at that. That created quickly. So we go to the resource, and now when we browse to it, it is actually the same app. This is super fast because it's talking to Postgres that's already been migrated to the cloud. OK, that's it for demos. One thing you guys didn't ask, but I'll offer the information anyways. Why isn't the tooling taking care of this? Why aren't we tooling ourselves for customers who might have containers? We actually are working on it. We are trying. Today, Migration Assistant is Windows to Windows, but we are working to make sure we are able to take your applications, whether they are Java applications or apps that are running on Linux, over to Azure App Service on Linux. Hopefully, sometime next year, we will have it released. But we think we can help assessments and migrations through tooling on that capability as well. No. For the tooling, the lift and shift tool I showed first thing, today we are just a Windows shop. But app service in itself allows you to deploy your containers as well. We are trying to get App Service Migration Assistant to be able to support Linux as a source and Linux as a target. We don't have that today, but it's in the works. Today, no. For Migration Assistant, we don't have that capability shipped. For Migration Assistant, yes. Yes. But we are close. I see the engineer who's working on it in the room.
Does it have the capability to redirect my DNS?
Automatically, no. But you can do it after the fact. Actually, let me show that to you. So we have custom domains capability right here. So once you create the application, you could either bring your own host name if you have one already and add an explicit binding to the app you just migrated, and then it'll be done for you right after. But Migration Assistant is not doing it because we don't know. And you have to kind of domain verify as well, which this particular experience will do that for you. OK, so App Service Migration Assistant roadmap. So the capabilities we have so far, OK, that's a huge list. I'll let you go through it, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to help answer. This is the roadmap for the tooling we have, and we want to keep making it easier to see how many more apps we can help assess and just lift and shift to the platform. There are many capabilities you have available to you today that you can use to just bring your code to the platform, but for the tooling, we are going to add more and more. If anybody has any feature requests, happy to hear it. I'll be at the app service booth after this demo as well, so if people have any follow-up questions, I'll be happy to take them there as well. Finally, I think the few things I wanted everybody to leave the room with is you can discover, assess, and migrate your applications from Azure Migrate Hub now, because Web App Migration Assistant is integrated in that experience, which means as you guys are looking into, the term I hear is evacuating your data centers, and applications is one of the candidates to evacuate. Azure Migrate Hub could be the one place you can see all of it in one place, even though the tooling will be unique to whether you're doing servers or apps or database. You can lift and shift your apps using App Service Migration Assistant, but you don't need to. That's not the exclusive option available to you. You can set up a CI/CD pipeline. If you have your source code repository configured already, you can build and deploy compiled packaged code through VS, through Azure Pipelines and DevOps, and we support Linux and Windows containers. So an assorted set of things for you to remember. There are a bunch of related sessions going on for migration if you're interested. I know it's Thursday, so most of them have already happened, but there are 2 more that if you're interested in, you're welcome to attend. Any questions? What's the time? We did good, 2 minutes left. Any questions?
We are sort of a Jenkins shop. Have you had experience helping people do CI/CD with Jenkins to app service?
Actually, we have a dedicated group of Java. We have a feature team in App Service that focuses on Java, Jenkins, Tomcat, JBoss. And yes, we have been working with the partners, with some customers and helping them over. We are also working with that team to build tooling on our end for lift and shift. Yeah.
Is the migration only limited to web applications?
This particular tool, yes, but Azure Migrate Hub has server migrations, database migrations capability as well. Well, thank you for coming. Hopefully it was useful. Thank you.